Thanks. So we'll jump around a little bit in the agenda. Daff said he'd be a couple minutes late, and we need him for the first couple of items. The spreadsheet, I'd like to have Sean here if he will make it, not sure. The next item was proposed changes to the API, but we're going to postpone that one a week to wait for the folks from Intel Labs that need to talk about it. I don't know who put the RIC PRs bullet on here.
Larry, I was kind of asking about that because for the project that we finished a couple months ago, we opened a few PRs related to the RIC. So we don't know, who is reviewing them or who's going to review them at some point, and what is the status for the review process there?
Yeah, great question. And the answer approximately is Wuzhang, but we don't have him on here. Yeah. So I see Alex is on. Alex, do you have any insight as to who might be able to take some responsibility for PRs and changes to, just overall management of the RIC?
Well, I also know that Wuzhang would be in charge somehow, but apart from that, we also have a PR in progress, for example, in the ONO CLI, I think, or in the Ransom, which was approved by Wuzhang, but then it got stuck somewhere in Jenkins waiting for a job, which doesn't happen anymore. So it's a little bit more than maybe it's not the case in your PRs, but
yeah, no, it's not the case. I think the issue
okay.
that you're facing is related to the whole Aether infrastructure, because it's not just the RIC, it's everything that is related to Jenkins that they use the registry is basically stuck because of these jobs that cannot be completed. Yeah, no, in our case is we open a few PRs for several components, even we added some service models, so that need to be reviewed. And when we're working at the beginning of the project, when we start working on this, my understanding there was Wuzhang wasn't necessarily the person that was kind of reviewing or kind of like working on the service models. I think it was Ivan or somebody else also working on that. So that's what I was kind of, long story short, it looks like there were multiple people before reviewing different components of the RIC.
Yeah, I think the short version of this is that everyone that was active in the RIC is absorbed into Intel in various ways, and with the exception of Wuzhang giving us his own time, as far as I know, we really need to fix this and find people, and maybe they're at Intel Labs, that are willing to take a bit of ownership there. I mean, there's a growing set of people that are looking, and Alex is involved, looking at the Ransom, which is related. And Wuzhang certainly can offer his expertise, but we really have to figure out a way to grow this set of people.
Certainly, yeah. So yeah, in our case, for the project we touch different components of the RIC, but we are already working on the core network, so it would be good to add some additional people on that part.
So I see Wuzhang is on now.
Yeah,
in case you just joined, we're just talking about who can handle pull requests to the RIC.
So mostly I can review it, even though it's out of my scope. For example, the service model. Well, actually, Ivan was working for that, but at least I can review it. So before we found some other people, I can still work on it. Or I believe that, Gabriel, I think from Intel website, I think you can be stepping up for reviewing the PRs with me, I guess. I can give you some Well, I can train you in this.
No,
So,
I mean, from that
yeah.
perspective, we now have the knowledge based on what we work on, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that now we open the PR, so we are not going to be able to review ourselves. So we need somebody else to help us reviewing that part. At least the PRs that we have for the rig. So I open a few, and there is like a sequence, especially they need to go in a specific order for the review and merging, right? So first we need to merge the service model, and then based on the service model we need to merge that the E2T and so on, right? But yeah, but in this specific case, since we open the PRs, we need somebody else to help us reviewing that.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I can help it. Yeah, anytime. So I'm happy to do that. So yeah, please assign it to me.
Yeah. So if you, Wujong, I think approaching this from the point of view of help of knowledge transfer as as it is to the folks at Intel Labs would be great. And Alex, on your end, are there candidates we need to prod here?
I think maybe we can start with me.
Okay, good.
And then we'll see. Yeah. Maybe add me just such that I can also learn a little bit. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I think that this is the answer. It has to be the answer here. And with Wujong's help, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in case Christian is here now as well, join the meeting. So regarding the review of the PRs for the rig.
Yeah,
thanks.
And you should read it.
So the service models, I'm a sort of raised them to a little different level in the sense that there was at one time an attempt to keep them consistent with ORAN, and I'm not sure how far out of date they are.
Based on the experience that we had working on this, they are kind of fairly consistent. There were kind of two things that we found through the process of working on this. The first one was that with the aim of automate all the creation of these, the proto files and the Go structs, ONF team added some or renamed the top level messages. So basically, if you take the standard document from ORAN, it's not going to directly match, especially for the top level messages. So if somebody kind of try to follow that guidance or the documentation that is on the ONOS project, is not going to be able to basically create the service models, because there is this little thing, that this prefix that needs to be modified for the top level messages for them to be automatically cleared. So that's one thing that we didn't know about that. And then going through the code, after spending a good amount of time, we found out that that was basically the thing that to make things work. That's one of the things. The second thing, which is kind of like relevant, at least for this, the service model that we work with, we added the CCC service model to make things simpler. Well, I'll leave one step back. The CCC service, all the previous service models, ORAN provide the specification as an ASN1 format. And for some reason, for the CCC service model, they changed it to a JSON format. The ONF process was automated to start with an ASN1 file, go to Proto, and then go to Go. So in our case, what we did is, since the CCC service model was a JSON, there was not a direct way to go either from JSON to Go or from JSON to Proto to Go. So what we did is we created an ASN file based on this JSON file, and from there on we follow the ASN. We follow the ONF tooling that was available already there. that's something that we need to kind of keep in mind regarding the ORAN part.
Yeah, that the ASN1 issue has been ongoing, and I mean there's an argument. There's obviously an advantage to be able to say it's ORAN compliant. There's also an argument to say to keep the pressure on ORAN by doing what we think is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what I tend to favor the latter, but that might not be the right thing for the project. All right, well, let's keep, we got a bunch of items. Let's keep coming back to this topic, but I think as a first step that we can expand the set of people that have write permission on those repos would be good. Quickly looking to
just
see who's
one quick thing, Larry, before you move on, regarding the first sub bullet that you added, the top level message is different from ORAN. Just to clarify, it's just the name of the message. So that it was, I think it was the ONF added, I believe it was E2SM prefix or something like that. There was some prefix that was added just for the top level messages.
It's, yeah, I get that it's a pretty syntactic thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thanks. All right, so
well, for what it's worth, out of curiosity, I just Googled around and did find a JSON to ASN1 conversion tool. I don't know, I just pushed it in chat for what it's worth.
Let me take a look, because we did try a few.
Yeah, we did try a few of them.
Of them online. Yeah, we asked several people from former ONF team members that are now on Intel. We talked with several people about this, and there was no direct solution to convert from one to the other in a simpler way. So that's why we had to, the easiest way was to go into this. Yeah, we did try the link that you share. We did try that one as well. There was not a straightforward to do that. So that's what I had to manually start doing one by one. And somehow it was a good thing, because we found several things that the specification itself didn't match with what the JSON file that they were providing in the same document didn't even match. But yeah, we did try multiple of those things to try to convert from JSON to ASN to make things simpler, but we end up with the simplest thing, just do it manually, creating the ASN file. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
okay. Let's go up to the top, since I see Daft there. Quick update on the registry, the Aether registry, and I think we may have a couple workarounds, but I wanted to hear where things stand.
So a quick statement, Docker base should be the Docker engine base idea from Docker 20.10.6, which was released in 2021 April. So we should be able to just use that, and instead of loading from a registry, I'll just sit it and make it always present and on, so we don't even have download time. So that should be a method to get the Docker issues up and running.
Okay, so that's bypassing the registry altogether.
Correct.
In terms of the Jenkins jobs.
Correct. It gets Jenkins jobs out of the way for things running on Docker base. It does not address pushing anything to the registry yet.
Got it. Thanks. So my first bullet here, and I know that the busy box, I called it the busy box workaround, and I wanted to get a better sense of what is involved, because if we could just make this the permanent UPF definition and bypass the Aether registry altogether. Does anyone know enough about what's going on there?
I have not investigated. I'm hoping somebody else has.
Yeah, so Gabriel, you're the one that put it out as the workaround, and it is UPF related.
Okay, say it one more time, please. I got a little bit lost.
So the point is I am able to, everyone that I know of that's tried to build Aether is successful, even with the Aether registry being down, with the exception of one container image, which is the UPF, all right, which is best.
No, not really. So it's not even a best. It's just a generic Docker image that is called BCBox.
All right, so that was that's fundamentally my question. The only thing we were depending on the registry for is something you can get somewhere else.
Yes. So, and based on the historical information that I got from my previous colleagues, is that, you know, ONF decided to do that because in Docker, if you are an anonymous user, you are limited with the number of times that you can pull an image in a given number of time, in a period of time. And that's why there was the decision to move this specific image or have a copy of this specific image instead of having in Docker, have it in the registry. So the users may be able to build either, well, at that time, Ether in a box or using the Helm charts for the best UPF any number of times, and there is no limitation from that perspective. I think that's at least that's the information.
That's right. I think that's consistent. But what I don't get is there is no UPF. There's no best image. All there is a BusyBox that I'm going to guess constructs the image, so to speak.
No. The thing is that the best image and the PFCP image come from, I think they come from GitHub or GAC something. That's the link. And that's the part that I got kind of like lost in the sense, or I don't have enough historical background to know why ONF decided to put the BCBox into the registry instead of putting somewhere else.
Well, so there's two questions here. One is, where do you put the BusyBox image? I get that one, but all BusyBox is tooling to build whatever you need. What that says to me is there isn't a pre-cooked best image. You're effectively constructing it on the fly.
No. There is already a best image and there is already a PFCP image. So the BusyBox, what it's been doing is used to discover the routes towards the N3 and N6 interfaces. So if my memory doesn't fail me, the only thing that BusyBox is used for is to send some ARP messages. ARP messages or ping messages. That's kind of the only thing that is being used for.
Okay.
So without the BusyBox, you can have the best UPF, you can build best, you can build the PFCP. The only thing is the pipeline for best is not being fully constructed because we don't know the neighbor MAC addresses and to be able to fully build the pipeline.
So what that says then is the workaround you proposed, there really is no downside in Ether in a box or Ether on ramp to making that the default.
To make it default, the Docker image, or?
Well, the default in the values file. Go ahead and
Yes, so you can make it the default using the Docker, the image from Docker Hub. Again, the only thing would be that if somebody tries to kind of deploy multiple times in a short period of time, it's going to get into this issue of not being able to pull the image due to
your workaround is pulling it from Docker Hub.
That's correct. It directly pulls for Docker Hub.
Now I get it. All right. But okay, so now unrolling all of this, a workaround here is to, instead of, how do we populate the Ether registry so you don't go to Docker Hub? The way that we could populate it is with a generic BusyBox image. We don't have to generate something complicated out of GitHub source.
Okay. So when the UPF, when there is a new, let's say, pull request in the UPF and it is approved, there is two images that are being created and they are directly pushed into, let me take a look, what is the specific location. So what we could do is also push this, or get a copy of this BusyBox and push it into the same registry where the BES and the UPF are being pushed. And I guess it's going to be the same place where the rest of the components or the rest of images of the control plane are being pushed to.
And where is that? Because I thought that was the Ether registry.
No, it's let me see, just one sec. No, I know that it's something related with GitHub, but I'm not 100% certain. Just give me one moment to find it out.
Yeah, this is the key. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you are able to kind of deploy all the rest of the components of the control plane. Of the core network overall. But the only thing is this specific image that, again, I don't have enough historical background to know why it was decided to put it on this specific image into the registry of the Aether registry.
Yeah, yeah.
Quick-
Does
quick-
anyone else know the answer to this?
I don't know the answer. Let me point out, I've checked. Docker limit is 100 pulls per 6 hours for anonymous users.
Yes. Yes. So, for example, I have reached that limit several times. Not necessarily just because of Docker, but if somebody, let's say, wants to deploy a Ether in a box with a customized version of the UPF, then the UPF does pull images from Docker Hub. So, I have reached that limit when kind of making modifications to the UPF, or when running some local tests for, let's say, the GitHub Actions. It also needs to kind of pull some images, and that's why I have reached that part, and that's why, and I understand why the decision was to kind of bring the BC box into an ONF managed registry.
Okay, this background is helpful. We're just trying to find out what minimally we need to do to get this registry running.
Yeah.
And the answer is it's not to populate it with hundreds of images that are getting generated in real time from source. All we got to do is figure this one out.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes things much easier.
Yeah, at least just to fix that issue.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, moving to the wiki update.
Yeah, short answer, the wikis went offline because somehow their IP got changed. That IP was associated with the reboot, and AWS allows for reboots changing IPs unless you really lock it down, and we hadn't. So that was first step. However, once that got resolved, logins are not being accepted. Basically, Confluence is not talking to Crowd, which is our authentication tool. All of the documentation for that authentication process has been read and followed, and it isn't working. So something else is happening behind the scenes. In addition, last night, a vulnerability estimate was sent out by Atlassian of highest criticality. And their recommendation right now is to immediately take all Confluence websites off the network, upgrade your systems, and then put them back on. It's a vulnerability that's apparently been around for 5 or 6 years and is now public, and people are talking about it, and it ends up providing root access to the wiki sites, and they've had multiple ransomware threats and ransomware requests as a result.
So
that may or may not be our issue, but it's certainly
an issue. So for this particular crowd, the wiki, I don't think is critical. Ether doesn't make any heavy use of it. Oh,
that would be my guess.
Yeah.
But...
Okay. Thanks. I don't see Sean, but I know I'm going to lose Scott in just a minute. I want to jump to the permission spreadsheet topic in case Scott has any feedback here. This is what Sean put together, and he has some recommendations. This is all for the Onos project, and he barely got started, but there's also a tab here for the Open Networking Lab. The recommendations look fine to me. Has anyone else given any thought to this? I mean, apart from perhaps, I think Daft proposed that we come up with some consistent labels for the different levels of access.
Yes.
This all seems reasonable. I didn't maybe fully appreciate what triage is about. No one,
Where do you see triage in here, Larry?
I'm
Row
sorry?
21.
Row 21.
Ah, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Something that we discussed last time was, Larry, that those groups that have read access only are not really needed anymore, given that the repos are public.
yeah, good point. Very good point. Let's see, how do I say this? Can I do that as a comment? Okay. Noted. Anything else? All right, so the recommendations, and there's the other, well, I'll come back and add it, but this is the naming recommendation. But keep core automation and reviewers groups. Move the Intel folks in core to reviewer. Move ESPD only people in core to reviewers. Maybe having trouble parsing that.
No, I think it's the ESPD. I think is the name of one of the groups that you have. So if you move a little bit up the screen, if you go.
Well, it's a category of people.
Oh, okay.
It's not a yeah. That's an Intel acronym. It's the old ONF. A lot of the old ONF.
ESPD is actually the our business unit name. So yeah.
Oh.
Edge something.
And maybe what you're having trouble parsing is the ESPD only.
Yeah, that's what I was having trouble parsing.
There might be people who are on a TST or something, and so they
that's it. Okay, I believe that's probably right.
Hi everyone, sorry I'm late.
Sure.
Okay. Outside people, that's straightforward. Remove the bots and Onus Builder from core. Apply automation to all repos. Sean, what's the intent of that one?
Question. What did I mean by that? I have to jog my memory. It was, yeah, I sorry, it's apply the automation group on columns S and T to all repos that, like for instance, Honest Live Go, they're not applied to it.
Can you say that again? I didn't, or give me another.
So columns S and T are the automation accounts. So like ONF bot and ONF builder. And currently they're not applying to Honest Live Go and other repos.
Got it. Okay, got it. Okay. So apply to all repos. Got it. All right. Change reviewers to maintain on all repos. Consider making SD-RAN access triage. So that gets back to, I didn't quite grok what triage was for.
It's people that can comment on issues and comment on pull requests. So really, it's not that much use for us. We don't keep issues on repos. I think, we keep issues on Jira.
Yeah.
And really, it's meant for kind of people that, might decide, whether the issue is appropriate or not, or send it to the right person. Probably not important for us. I think maintain is a more important one.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I think these are all straightforward. Does anyone have any comments? We will start acting on this as time as other fires permit.
Yeah, and just to say that I have a task for myself to add I think OMIC project to this spreadsheet as well. I need to trawl through those repos and
Thank you.
do
Good.
a separate sheet on here.
Okay. All right, so let me come back to the notes, the minutes here. And I'm just gonna, whoops. Note the comments. Sean going to apply to OMEC. Will execute when time is available. Everyone okay with that? Not hearing any problems. We already talked about the RIC. Stop me if I'm jumping ahead too far here. Ransom, is there anything to say there, Alex or Sean?
Yeah, so today morning we had some discussion. So Alex was not there, but Sarat was there. So we decided to I decided to implement some POC level of the second version of the RAN simulator. So basically it will support the multiple NFs, network functions, and very basic RRM functionality, and implementing the KPM service model in it. So that I think every week I will try to report the progress, but probably it will take 3 weeks to be done, I think. So once POC is ready, then probably while doing that, actually, we will find some issues, or we will find some drawbacks of my initial idea or something like that. So after POC, we will start discussion. We will start a discussion with it, and then we will list up all the issues we found while doing the POC, and then after that, the idea will be improved. So that is our current approach. So like I mentioned, I will start the POC implementation for next 3 or 4 weeks. And after that, I think I can demonstrate it sometime next month, I guess.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Wujong, and thanks for hosting the meeting today since I was not able to join.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that meeting is, if you have, I believe it's on the ONF calendar if you are interested in attending it. All right, let's go to the last large topic here, which is a QA status report. Let me see if Kunal, do you want to run through it, or you want me to? Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Starting from all the near-term goals, we have completed all the near-term goals, except the fresh installation issue that we have faced for API tests. So we had a call with Sean today, and we could debug it through, and Sean has some inputs on that. Sean, would you like to go with the updates that we shared?
Yeah. So basically, the problem appears to be that onus topo and onus config don't come up after redeployment, and from what I can find, the reason is there's an expired certificate somewhere in one of the atomics subsystems. So there's the sidecar controller. something tries calling the sidecar controller, but basically it's giving a response that it's not able to get the certificate. So I've asked Jordan, why this might happen, and I'm waiting back for a response from him, and I'll escalate it with him in the next day.
Right, that's good. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for your time.
Okay, user RAN SIM containerization issue. What do you any more insights there?
Yeah. So for UERAN SIM issue that we were getting earlier, so it was a permissions issue. We tried running it with root user. I mean, to my screen, it worked, but yeah, still the you can say the tunnel interface is still not coming up. I think what when I discussed it with one of um, our DevOps engineer who has some insights on Docker. So as per them, we need to have something like a um, where we a tool where which can help us in creating a virtual interface. So uh, for that they have suggested soft ether, or I think Kmod is also one of them. So I was just having a discussion with them, and I got to know that some a different tool might help us in getting that tunnel interface in the container.
Okay, so you've got some leads to try to get it up.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking into it, and we'll see if soft ether might help us.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Soft ether.
Yeah, soft ether.
All right. So those were the two big blockers, so to speak, the things that needed fixing. So this next bullet, I can just kind of give you a high-level summary. If you go to Jenkins, and we should probably talk at some point, but maybe this isn't quite the right time, about who has access to Jenkins. Does anyone on the call access Jenkins and on the TST? I'm guessing so, because you see stuff that's blocked. All right, so general topic we should spend some time on is who is getting into Jenkins and watching what happens there. There's also a Aether Jenkins channel that failures are posted to, but that's only related to OnRamp trying to build stuff. The high level takeaway and what I've highlighted here is I went through all the jobs and asked the question, is it delivering the value I want out of it? And there were some cases that it wasn't. It was reporting success because the system was properly building, but if you looked at the results of the simulation, something might have been failing. So I'm going through and making that evaluation of all the tests to make sure we're getting the value out of it that we want. And I think everything else here is kind of follow on to that, because it generated some new tasks basically.
Right.
So for example, the multi-UPF test is running, but we're not actually necessarily validating that it's behaving correctly. Someone was going to say something?
Right. Like Kunal here. We have, we are proposing these tasks to TST to, take a call if we need to prioritize some of them, or do we need to drop some of them? So we are planning. We are proposing a thorough testing of multi-UPF support, because for now we are just doing a sanity test, and if the multi-UPF functionality is thoroughly tested earlier, we can skip this one, or um, if it is not, then
Well, so maybe we're miscommunicating on what additional tests we're talking about. I'm not talking about creating anything additional. If you bring up two PFs and you run GNB sim traffic through it, that validated that the UPF came up. So that all I'm asking for there, and I think it's sufficient, is that you check that GNB sim ran properly. It's not like we're suddenly going to invent new ways to probe the UPF internally. Right? Am I making sense there?
Yes, certainly. I mean, we have created a set of test cases where we have kind of added test cases like creating a slice, a separate slice for separate UPFs, or when a UE is in a different slice, or if a UE moves from one UPF to the other UPF, what happens? So those kind of scenarios we have covered there. If
Well,
we
so
can,
just a second. Moving from one UPF to another is set that one aside for just a second. Everything else you've described is part of the standard multi-UPF deployment. It installs the UPFs, it binds ISMEs to, devices to slices and slices to UPFs, then it tries to set up a throughput, end-to-end channel. If GNB SYN runs correctly in that configuration, you have demonstrated that UPF got configured. That doesn't test the mobility part of it, but that's a whole other thing.
yes, right.
So back to the issue of tasks on generating new tests. I think the first task, and then we can revisit it, is simply make sure GNB SYN runs as we thought it was supposed to be running, and then you get and that GNB SYN reports success on all the UEs, because some of the UEs are going to UPF-1 and some of the UEs are going to UPF-2.
Right.
So that's the UPF one. Let's just to step through these. API tests, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, so here we are proposing an end-to-end integrated test. So far, the API test validates only APIs, and GNB SIM tests are only running through GNB SIM. So it's an integrated test. Like when API something changes on API side, then through APIs, then that can also be validated through GNB SIM to validate if everything works fine with the core as well.
Okay, so I would argue that the configuration of multi-UPF does exactly that. It brings up a set of UEs and slices, then it adds a slice and it binds a new set of UPFs, a new set of UEs to it, and then runs the GNB SIM against it. So just from a priority point of view, I think if I'm going to just put this as a comment here, the highest priority is ensuring that the standard multi-UPF configuration runs successfully. And then that will give you an end-to-end API, an end-to-end integration test. Now, maybe there's another one to do with UE ransom, but I think if the priority would be to get what we already have working, and then we'll do an evaluation of what gaps there might be. More narrowly, thorough API test. So that's what was your thinking here?
Yeah, so there is a limited coverage of API tests in the current framework. So we can add some more API test where we will be running some more negative test cases and like negative inputs or invalid inputs in the APIs and do a validation over there.
Sean, I'm looking for people that have experience with the API. Would more thorough API testing, do you think of it as providing a lot of value, or it would be nice but not a must-have?
You mean above the current set of API tests, or you mean in general, Larry? Is it?
Well, do you think it provides value to Aether, at where Aether is right now, to have more thorough API, what I've highlighted here, more thorough set of API tests? So negative inputs and valid inputs, data type validation, and so on.
Yeah, well, I'm always in favor of testing those kind of corner cases. Definitely, you know, it's hard to argue against them.
Yeah, I certainly.
I don't know if that helps you.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I don't know if that helps. Sorry, was someone else about to speak?
Yeah, I just kind of one comment. When I was kind of talking with the Canonical team, it seems that they are interested in kind of their contributions to be concentrated on code quality and kind of like automation. Probably would be good. I mean, they are starting doing some PRs, at least from the control plane perspective, adding some PRs related to those aspects. Probably would be good to get some insights from there as well.
Yeah, they don't care about our API. They're only directly using the SD core, but that's fantastic if they can push the code quality there. I'm gonna note this. It certainly would be a good thing to do this. It's probably the second priority. And I appreciate that what you're asking at a top level is, you know, these are some things to work on. What are the priorities? And I would rank him that way. Other thoughts on any of this or any other topics?
I have two comments. One related to the images, the VisiBox image. I was looking at the other repos for the control plane of the core network, and it seems that all of them are actually pulling the images from Docker. So I think we are good moving the VisiBox. I mean the temporary change that I made to make it permanent. So I think that would be good enough.
So the whole problem of hitting Docker Hub too often maybe was a problem at one time and less so now, perhaps, just given that there used to be a whole lot of engineers working on all of this.
Yes and no. I mean, you're gonna hit that primarily when you're doing some development. So you need to test a few things, run some examples and things like that. So that's when it's more likely to hit into that issue, right? But if you are just general user deploying the core network and then doing something on top of that, highly likely you don't necessarily need to modify the images for the different components. But again, the rest of the components of the control plane are, based on what I see, I pull in the generic images from Docker Hub. So I don't see why, you know, we cannot just make this change permanent, at least as of now, and then see later on if somebody has faced that issue. Again, in my case, in the past, I have encountered this limitation, but because of running several tests, modifications, and so on.
Well, yeah. So until this becomes a new, we rediscover this problem when we can anticipate that it will happen. I think the change is making it semi-permanent is a perfectly good one, and then that gives us some breathing room to figure out how we want to deal with
Yeah, but
Interesting.
so my point is that if you hit that issue with with the VC box, you're gonna hit the same issue with the rest of components of the
Yeah.
control plane.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's not just an isolated thing. So
Yeah. So BusyBox would be in the same boat.
mhm.
Okay, thanks. That's a really good point. We're already vulnerable there.
Yeah, my second comment is something that we discussed about the SIM cards. I just wanted to kind of, I received feedback from the seller where we purchased the SIM cards from. He said that those SIM cards do not support 5G features. So the open cells.
Which SIM cards are these?
Open cells, the ones that we use for the project that we finished a couple of months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Open, what was it again?
Open dash cells.
Open dash cells. Oh, okay. I'll go look into that.
Yeah, they do not support.
Do not support 5G?
Do not. No, they do not support 5G features. So we use them
Yeah,
for 5G, but very basic. You know, we use it for 5G. G not be a 5G device, but you know, additional features that are meant for 5G, a specific 5G, those SIM cards do not support.
Yeah, that's exactly the boat we're in right now with the SIM cards we're using.
Okay.
In fact, what concerns me a little bit is the SIM cards that are for 5G don't work with, we have not gotten any of them to work with our core. So it's kind of the other way. Our 5G core works with the 4G SIMs, but no one has yet gotten it to work with a 5G SIM.
Okay.
And it could, I can't say where the problem is, but we pounded on this with the Princeton folks for weeks and didn't get it to work.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, so
Larry, I have a request here. I mean, it is close to midnight here in India. If we can move the TST meeting to a couple of hours before, it would be really helpful.
all right, I think it's probably the makeup of the TSTs changed a little bit. We should look at the issue of the timing for it. I think I would agree that it's time to do that, because I do realize it. And we pushed it later to make it available for some people, but maybe there's other options we need to explore. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
You, bye.
Thank you. Bye.